The only tiny problem being that the system was taking about 2.5 minutes to recognize each word. That's improved now, although the project is still behind schedule. Already on the market is what they call the small recognizer, which has a 1,000-word vocabulary.
Okay. Zoom in. Again.
One of its first applications was this computer-aided design package. Together, they were used to design the custom chips for the big recognizer.
Draw. Tack. Draw.
Look ahead 5, 10 years. What's going to happen?
In offices, I see speech recognition being very widely used for creating written documents, for talking to a computer in normal English without having to be trained, so that you can ask any question you want of a computer, and if it doesn't have the information in its own database, it'll actually, on its own initiative, call up by telecommunications other national databases very quickly, electronically, gather information from around the world, and give you an answer within seconds. Computers will be much more accessible in that we will not have to learn specialized skills to interact with them. They're going to move to where people are, as opposed to people having to adjust their methods of communication to be compatible with computers.
Ray Kurzweil talking there with Fref. Now, 2 weeks ago, Sinclair announced a new micro. It's the Spectrum 128, a memory-expanded version of their best-selling, although now aging, home computer. And already, Sinclair claimed to have taken orders worth £14 million. It was launched last year in Spain, but it wasn't available in British shops because Sinclair still had vast stocks of the older 48K machine to sell. Sinclair say the new Spectrum is aimed at the so-called entertainment market. Well, that's games to you and me. But for some inexplicable reason, there isn't a joystick port to be found on it. Well, presumably Sinclair still have a vast warehouse full of interface 2s. However, they have taken the opportunity of sorting out some of the shortcomings of the earlier machine. For instance, the old dot crawl, which caused a lot of criticism of the picture quality, has now been eliminated. And there's a new 8-pin DIN socket on the back here, providing composite video or RGB output. So now you can use a high-resolution monitor. Well, of course, you can still use a domestic TV if you like this. There's also much better sound, which now comes out of the TV speaker. Well, hardly Kurzweil, but not too bad. It uses a standard 3-channel sound chip, and already the cynics are saying that at last the Spectrum has the sound capabilities of the long-dead Auric. However, it is a big improvement on the inaudible old beep. Now, this program here is called Gladiator from Domark. It's been specially written for the 128, but prospective owners will be worried about compatibility with existing Spectrums, for which there are some 5,000 titles. We spoke to Sinclair Research, who said it was overwhelmingly compatible, but warns that some peaks and pokes may not work. Certainly the programs I've tried have worked. In fact, this is actually 2 micros in one. On power up, just reset it, it kicks off in 128 mode, as you see, and it's ready to load a tape at a single key press. But I can select the 48K mode, quite simply, like so, and there you are. As you now see, it claims to be a vintage 1982 machine. And just for old time's sake, they've even kept a few of the original bugs in the ROM. But here's something it certainly couldn't have done in 1982. It's controlling a music synthesizer through its musical instrument digital interface, or MIDI for short. As you can hear, it works fine. The MIDI socket just here also doubles as an RS-232 port, well, at least according to the label they've got here, and that means in theory you can now drive printers and modems. But, and this is pure Sinclair, this socket conforms to no known MIDI or RS-232 standard, and even though this looks like a regular telephone plug, it isn't. So, the new machine has a few new features, a few enhancements, but it's no dramatic advance on the old Spectrum. So, earlier today I asked Alison Maguire, the marketing manager at Sinclair, why they had bothered.
We bothered because we wanted to give people more features that would make the 128 a better entertainment machine and an easier machine to use for programming. And we've tripled the memory, we've vastly improved the sound, and we've added a new piece of software that makes it easier for people writing basic programs.
Such advantages as there are have got to be measured against the price, which people are saying is horrendous, £179. How do you justify that?
Before Christmas, we took the 128 out into the marketplace and we asked people several questions about it, including what they would guess the price would be. And the vast majority set the price at between 170 and 180. And don't forget, we include 2 completely free games for that, both of which sell for £9.95 each at the moment.
Why is there no joystick port, and why is the MIDI non-standard?
We thought very carefully about putting in a joystick port, but decided not to because we knew it was important that the 128 should be software compatible with the 48. There is no standard joystick interface. If we'd built one in, we would have lessened compatibility. As for the MIDI interface, we have used the same socket as we used on the QL, and it doubles as an RS-232 port.
Who's going to use it? Are people going to upgrade from their 48s, do you think?
Anyone will use this computer if they want to use a computer for having fun and learning to program. I think people probably will want to upgrade from their 48, but I think most of our customers will be new users of computers, first-time users.
Does that mean the 48 is now going to bite the dust?
Not at all. We think there's a lot of life left yet in the 48K, and we'll be selling it for a long time to come.
Alison, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next Tuesday sees the launch of Eddie Shah's new newspaper, Today, which he claims uses the most advanced printing technology in the world. This is a test copy. Both the pictures and the text are processed and assembled into pages entirely by computer. Well, it's now possible to do something similar on home micros. There are several packages available that will help you jazz up the tennis club news, perk up the parish magazine, or in our case, mutilate the microlive notes. For home publishing, you really need more than just a word processor. You need to be able to generate documents containing both text and illustrations. And you need the text to be available in a wide variety of fonts and sizes. Well, this package, Pagemaker, can do all those things. It runs on a BBC Micro, and you also need a dot matrix printer to print things out. Well, you don't really need a mouse, but it makes it a lot easier. And these are the control buttons here that I shall be using to do almost everything in composing my little newsletter. Well, it lets you compose pages with many of the features you'd expect from a real newspaper. It's got headlines, it's got columns, it's got pictures and diagrams and so on, and it's all very nicely laid out. These are rather clever, I think. Well, I'm in the process of writing our microlive program notes, and you can see I've got half a page here, and that's what's displayed on the screen. I can scroll it up and see the bottom half down here eventually as I go along and prepare things. Well, I'm just going to write a new column over here, and I position the cursor where I want to start typing, and just hit one of the keys on the mouse like that, and I can type Home Publishing. There. Now, I don't want to carry on at that size of font, it's rather too large, so I'm going to change the font size by altering it like this, and I just take it back to a smaller font size. Now, the next thing I have to do is to really define where I'm going to actually put my new piece of text. Well, I want it clearly in this area under Home Publishing. So I select this icon there and go to Define, which enables me to define the area. Now, place the crosswise there. And all the time I'm just using the mouse. It's very straightforward, and there. So I've now defined exactly where I want my text. Well, I could type into this area, of course, but instead of doing that, what I'm going to do, I've already prepared an article using a word processing package, and I'm going to extract from that word processing package and write it in that space. This helps you, for example, if someone else has actually sent you an article that you want to use on his micro. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go in there and read a file. And it's asking which drive. It's on drive 0, and the word processing package I've used is called View, and it's asking me the file name. So I've got to change the disk here, and this is the disk that I've already prepared using View. Stick it in there, and the file name is Home. Now what it's asking me to do is to position the cursor where I want this to be printed, and I want it just in there, and away it goes. Now, I've used all the facilities of the word processing package to produce this, but this package is actually spacing it out and opening up the words so I don't get split words at the end of a line, and it fits perfectly into the little area that I've actually allocated to do it. And it's rather nice, and that's it completed. Now, the next thing I might want to do, there's an article on page 3 on the Sinclair Spectrum, so what I'm going to do is to actually try and draw a Sinclair Spectrum in the area that I've allocated for it here. And to do that, I select this icon here, which is a kind of paint pot. And I go into shapes, and of course the shape of a Sinclair Spectrum is a box. And quite rapidly, I can try and draw myself a Sinclair Spectrum. Well, that's one box, and of course it's got keys on it. And so I start off doing the keys like this, and I can repeat them. There we go. Repeat them like that, and so on and so forth, and get some sort of replication of a Sinclair Spectrum. Now, I might want to actually colour that in or paint it, so I go to the paint icon up here and take it down here, and bingo, I've got something black, and it roughly looks like a Sinclair Spectrum. Well, it doesn't look very good to me, it's rather pathetic, but what we'd like to do now is to load in a real picture of a Sinclair Spectrum. Leslie.
Right, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use this device from Watford Electronics. It's called a digitizer. It costs £95 and it lets you grab frames of video into your micro. Now, I've got the digitizer connected to an ordinary home video recorder, and you see the television there is tuned to BBC One. Who have we got on? The Terry Wogan Show. His guest is Norman Tebbit. I'm sure neither of them will mind helping us with this demonstration. Right, now what happens is once every couple of seconds or so, the digitizer scans the incoming pictures, sending the video information to the computer's memory, and you can actually see that happening on the computer monitor. Now seriously, we must say at this moment, if you're going to publish pictures taken off the television, you do need copyright clearance from the broadcasting company. But of course, you don't have to use broadcast pictures at all. You can also use a home video camera like this one here, and you can grab pictures of anything, your husband, your granny, or your dog. But what Max said he wanted was a picture of the Spectrum. So that's what he's going to get. I shall select camera on the video, and as soon as I've got a picture of the Spectrum up on the computer monitor, it means that that's safely in the memory, so I should be able to save that picture onto disk. There it goes. Yep. And of course, once I've got it on disk, I can do anything I like with it. Mac, I believe you wanted this for your Microlive publication?
Thank you very much.
Hold
Here
the
we go.
front page.
Let's try it. Well, I've already scrolled up, as you can see, the top part of the page, and I've got to, by using this arrow here, I just scroll it up a little bit more to give me the whole of the bottom half of my sheet. And there it is. Now what I've got to is to, of course, read in the disc that Leslie has just given me. And I'm going to read it out onto the screen, insert the disc and press execute. Here we go. Drive 0, load, and it's asked me the file name. Now this file name this time is Spectrum. It looks an odd spelling, but that's the name we've given to the file. And here's hoping, Leslie, that you got it. It is, perfectly. And here it is beginning to come out. Now, it's a very hard test for the digitizer, is this, because the Spectrum is black with black keys with this very fine white lettering on it. And you'll notice that it's also negative. In other words, it's like a negative film you've got processed in. The black is white and the white is black. But once it's in the machine, we can do all sorts of things. We can turn it round, left to right. We can flip it over, top to bottom. We can increase its size to double the size. We can shrink it down to half the size to position it in any particular position we want in our newspaper. And we can also actually touch it up by using the paintbrush and clear out some of the mess that we've got. Well, there it is, it's read in. Now, let's take the icon down to there, and we can invert it, and bang, that's our picture of the Spectrum. Well, it doesn't look all that brilliant, so perhaps what we should do is just do a little bit of a touch-up. And I can do that by, again, selecting the paint pot. I want a pattern. The pattern I'm going to select is white, because I'm going to clear up all some of those terrible dots and things, and I'm going to use the spray to do that. And start, and there we go. I start to clear off all this rubbish around here, and oops, I've carved out a bit of this wonderful Spectrum, and so it goes on, and that's really quite nice. Well, the Pagemaker costs about £50, and if you want the mouse, that's another £40. You've been able to do this kind of thing for some time on more expensive equipment, but now that many home micros have high-resolution graphics and more memory, this kind of program should be soon available for a wider range of machines.
Well, that's just about all we've got time for this week. Next week, though, we talk to Shirley Williams about the way computers are affecting our working lives, and we'll be mocking up a possible office of the future. So, until then, goodbye.
And that programme can be seen again next Monday at 5:30 here on 2.